It's never too early for spooky season, right? Okay, good. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Bree and today we are going to be talking about the seasonal spooky challenge that's created by Cassidy over at Covers with Cassidy. I will link her video explaining all of this, but essentially this is for horrors and thrillers, any type of like spooky book, really, whatever you think is spooky. And the idea is that you read at least 8 books, one for each of the settings, and then use those 8 books to also unlock the extra bonus challenges. On top of that, there is also a section for cover prompts. Horror books usually tend to follow a theme when it comes to what's on their cover, what sells, what markets. And so following in that line, we just have to find books that have these things on the cover. I will go into detail, but here is the whole board right here. And so I'm going to be talking about this. I actually have 10 books on my TBR because I have 8 for the full ones, and then I had to do a couple of extra for the cover prompts, and then I will need your help with one at the end because I don't have a book for it. My goal is to have a couple of vlogs during September and October, so be on the lookout for that. Today I'm just going to be talking about what books I'm planning to read. So I'm going to talk about the 8 books first that correspond with each setting, and I will also tell you which unlocking bonus they will be used for. First up, I have Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. This is for the urban prompt. It's set in New York City, so that's pretty urban. And this is about a couple who wins the housing lottery. They get to stay in this nice apartment in New York City, which is great because she just had a baby and the birth actually was very traumatic and she ended up like being paralyzed. That is a little bit terrifying to me, and I don't know that this is going to be a book that I will be able to read. One of few triggers, but we're gonna try. Turns out the apartment might be a little bit haunted, might be a little bit odd, disturbing events, Anna's deep unease and paranoia as the price of living in New York. People are odd, but he can't explain the needle-like bite marks on the baby. I've heard nothing but good things about this, and I'm very excited to finally get to it. For the unlocking trope, I have this under audiobook. However, a lot of these books will end up as audiobooks, and so that might end up getting switched around. It's just the one that kind of fell under. The next setting is summer camp, which is like pretty much a go-to for the horrors and thrillers, to be honest. For this one, I'm going to be reading You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Caitlin Bayron. She writes normally YA fantasy, but this was her debut into horror. And this takes place at Camp Mirror Lake, where the kids that show up have to play out a final girl scenario. The guests pay to be scared and to take place in this full contact game, but I think someone is going to be taking it a little bit more seriously and less of a game. This will complete the unlocking prompt of reading a YA book. For the isolated setting, I'm going to be reading The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. This book I have heard mixed reviews on. However, it feels like it could be a Bree book. I don't know. Space horror, sci-fi horror tends to usually work for me. This is about a caver who is on an isolated planet, and they're going to be doing like some mineral deposits and like collecting things for research purposes. However, it becomes a lot scarier than just that. She kind of faked her way onto this mission, kind of exaggerating her credentials, and the other person on her team is using that as leverage. And then as the mission progresses, there's some inconsistencies, there's some missing supplies, and things just kind of divulge and spiral into paranoia. Like I said, space horror is something that I really, really love, just because of like the psychological element to it. So I'm intrigued by this one despite the mixed reviews. And for the unlocking prompt, this will fit the prompt of a book that you didn't buy. There are a couple books that this prompt will work for, but again, this is the one that just kind of fit there. For the small town setting, I'm going to be reading Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. This takes place in a small Wisconsin town. There are 3 estranged siblings reunite to sort out the mother's estate. While going through the parents' belongings, the siblings stumble upon a collection of home videos and decide to revisit the happier memories. However, the nostalgia is cut short when one of the VHS tapes reveals a night back in 1999 that none of them have any recollection of. On screen, their father appears covered in blood. What follows is a dead body and a pact between their parents to get rid of it, before the video abruptly ends. I've read something from Geneva Rose before. I have a couple of her other books, and this one just sounds like a really fun, exciting book. I also have the Barnes & Noble special edition where it like actually looks like a VHS, so I have to read it. sooner rather than later. For the unlocking prompt, this is going to fit the new release. For the southern setting, I'm going to be reading The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. I have a very mixed relationship with T. Kingfisher. However, the ones that are like more horror adjacent, I tend to like more. I really liked A House with Good Bones and What Moves the Dead, and so I'm hoping that this is going to be kind of more similar to that versus like her more whimsical fantasy. This is about a woman who goes back to her grandmother's in North Carolina and to like clean out her house after she passed away, and finds some disturbing things. She finds long hidden secrets about a strange colony being in the woods. She stumbles upon her step-grandfather's journal, which at first seems to be filled with nonsensical rants, until she encounters some of the terrifying things that he described. Alone in the woods with her dog, she finds herself face to face with a series of impossible terror, because sometimes the things that go bump in the night are real and they're looking for you. This sounds really atmospheric. It sounds up my alley. I'm just hoping that T. Kingfisher hits it out of the park this time. This book doesn't actually have an unlocking prompt that works. I'm probably gonna have to shift things around because the one that I have left is a book on somebody else's TBR, and I haven't really seen a lot of these TBRs go up yet. So if anyone is reading The Twisted Ones at any point in September or October, not even for this challenge, but like at any point in September or October, then I can count it. Otherwise I'll have to like do some, you know, shifting. Then we have the classic haunted house setting. For that, I'm going to be reading The September House by Carissa Orlando. This is a book that I've had on my TBR for a really long time, and I really think I'm going to love it. So why haven't I read it? I don't know. I put this on like a 5-star prediction list a year ago. I still haven't read it, so we're going to rectify that. And this book feels like the TV show Ghost. Which I love that show. It's about a woman who buys what she thinks is her dream home. It's a little bit of a fixer-upper. It's a little bit old. It's okay. We will work with it. Housing is expensive these days. And, you know, it might be haunted, okay? There might be ghosts. But instead of packing up and leaving, she's like, we're gonna deal with this. This is the dream home, okay? I can't afford to go anywhere else. So it feels like it's gonna be, I don't know, like a little bit cozy. I could be very wrong about that vibe, but I have high hopes for it. I've heard great things about it. I have seen good reviews, high ratings from people that I have similar reading taste to. My expectations are pretty high for this. And for the unlocking prompt, this is going to fulfill the new author prompt. For coastal setting, I am going to be stretching this just a little bit. I'm going to be reading The Vacation by John Mars. Listen, it takes place in Los Angeles, which is a coastal city, and I want to say there's like a beach involved. Venice Beach, yes. Venice Beach, Los Angeles. So we're calling this a coastal place. And this is also a thriller. It's one of the few thrillers that I have on here, but I really want to read this book. I really want to read a bunch of John Mars books. So any opportunity that I have, I'm gonna put it on a TBR. This has the most vague synopsis ever. I have no idea what this book is about, even after reading the back of it, which honestly I appreciate because I kind of like to go into thrillers pretty blind. Venice Beach, a paradise on earth. Tourists flock to the Golden Coast and the promise of Hollywood. But for 8 strangers at a beachfront hostel, there is far more on their minds than an extended vacation. All of them are running from something, and they all have secrets they'd kill to keep. Sounds good. I just love the commentary that John Mars puts in his books. I love like the fast-paced aspect of it. Here for it. For the unlocking prompt, this is going to fit diverse rep, as John Mars is a queer author. The last setting is in the woods, and for this one I'm going to be reading Dead Lake by Darcy Coates. Have to put a Darcy book on here, of course. This is about a woman who is an artist, and she goes to this secluded lake cabin to get away for a little while. She is struggling with artist block, and she has an upcoming gallery come soon, and she's gotta get this collection out. No neighbors, no phone service, no nothing. She can just go to this beautiful lake and you know, paint, get her creativity back. Unfortunately, that kind of turns into a nightmare real quick. She finds out she is being stalked. There is a strange man standing at the edge of the dock, staring into the water. He starts to follow her, he disables her car, and it destroys the only way that she can communicate with the outside world. This is one of Darcy's novellas. It's only about 150 pages. I have not read very many of her novellas. I've read one of her short story collections, and then I've read The Foldcroft Ghost, which I guess is kind of a novella, and I loved that one. So very excited about this. It will fulfill the unlocking prompt of a a novella, which is why it's on here, because I was having a problem trying to find a novella for this. Okay, so those are the 8 setting prompts and the 8 unlocking prompts. Now let's talk about the cover prompts. 5 of the books that I already talked about will fit for the cover prompts. So we have The Luminous Dead for hands on the cover. It's a space hand or a robot, I don't know. I think it's a space hand. I'm still counting it. We have You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight for animal on the cover. If you look at the top, there is an owl there. We have Dead Lake for water on the cover. Lots of water in this one. We have The September House for house on the cover, obviously. And then Home is Where the Bodies is actually, it could be 2 things. It's tech, obviously, because it's a VHS. It's old tech, but it's tech. But there also is blood on it too, so I could use it for either one. However, I think I have a better one for blood on the cover. So I really want to read Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates. This one I think is also a short story collection or a novella and then a couple of short stories. This one is on both Cassidy and Lexi's TBR as well, but there's definitely blood on that cover. Weapon on the cover was surprisingly hard. I don't know why. But I do have Sign Here by Claudia Lux. This is a little bit more fantasy. It's kind of like an MLM, but in hell. It's a demon trying to find people that will sell their soul. Literally. But it does have like a pitchfork on there, so I'm going to call it a weapon. Listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. That's what I'm gonna use for weapon on the cover. And then there is one more cover prompt on there that I don't have a book for, so I need your help. Let me know down in the comments below what book I should read for this, and that is Eyeballs. Eyeballs. Technically it could be just like a person where you see their eyeball, but I think the spirit of this prompt is like a literal eyeball. I think I've read a couple of books with like prominent eyeballs. There are definitely some more, but let me know which one I should read down in the comments below. That is my TBR. We will see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to do a couple of vlogs, so you'll be able to see my process. The idea is to have this done by sometime in October, so you'll probably see 2 vlogs from me. Please give me your recommendations down below, and if you are not feeling chatty, put an eyeball emoji. That feels fitting. That's all I have for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Told you this was temporary.